Thanks for taking the break with us. Let's get the show back on rolling. Old Possum's Book of Practical Cats was made in 1939. It is a collection of whimsical light poems by T.S. Eliot about feline physiology and sociology, published by Faber and Faber. It serves as the basis of Andrew Lloyd Webber's musical Cats. Eliot wrote the poems in the 1930s and included them under his assumed name, Old Possum, in letters to his godchildren. They were collected and published in 1939. The cover, illustrated by the author and quickly republished in 1940, illustrated in full by Nicholas Bentley. They have also been published in versions illustrated by Edward Gorey, 1982, Alex Scheffler, 2009, and Rebecca Ashdown in 2014. Old Possum's Book of Practical Cats was adapted in 1954 by the English composer Alan Rawsthorne, set 6 of the poems in a work of speaker and orchestra entitled Practical Cats, which was recorded soon after with the actor Robert Donat as the speaker. At about the same time, another English composer, Humphrey Sealer, composed another narrated piece based on the poems, used flutes, piccolo, cello, and guitar. This work, Two Practical Cats, consists of setting of the poems about McCavity and Growl Tiger. The best-known musical adaptation of the poems is Andrew Lloyd Webber's musical Cats, which was premiered in the West End of London in 1981 and on Broadway in 1982. It became the longest-running Broadway play show in history until it was overtaken by another musical by Lloyd Webber, The Phantom of the Opera, as well as the characters found in the book. Cats introduced several additional characters from Eliot's unpublished drafts. Most notable, Grizabella. The musical was adapted into a direct-to-video film in 1998. A feature film adaptation of Cats was released on December 20th, 2019. The culture in the film, Logan and Jessica meet an old man in the ruins of the United States Senate chamber during their search for sanctuary. The old man has many cats and refers to the poem The Name of Cats, explaining that each cat has 3 names, one common, one fancy, and one only the cats know. Later, the old man refers to one of the cats, in particular, Gus, short for asparagus, and goes to recite parts of McCavity the Mystery Cat. The British rock band Mongo Jerry derived their name from the book's poem Mongo Jerry and Rumpelteazer. On June 5th, 2009, The Times revealed that in 1937, Eliot had composed a 34-line poem titled Cows for the children of Frank Murley, a friend who, like Eliot, was a director of the published company Faber and Faber. Murley's daughter, Susanna Smithson, discovered the poem as part of the BBC Two Programme Arena T.S. Eliot broadcast that night as part of the BBC poetry season. Andrew Lloyd Webber, Baron Lloyd Webber, born on March 22nd, 1948, is an English composer and impersonator, whatever, of musical theater. Several of his musicals have run for more than a decade, both in the West End and on Broadway. He has composed 13 musicals, a song cycle, a variation, 2 film scores, and a Latin Requiem Mass. Several of his songs have been widely recorded and were successfully outside of their parent musicals, such as The Music of the Night and All I Ask of You from The Phantom of the Opera, I Don't Know How to Love Him from Jesus Christ Superstar, Don't Cry for Me, Agrestina from Evita, Any Dream Will Do from Joseph and the Amazing Technicolor Dreamcoat, and Memory from Cats. In 2001, the New York Times referred to him as the most commercially successful composer in history, ranked the 5th most powerful person in British culture. By the Daily Telegraph in 2008, the lyricist Don Black stated Andrew more or less single-handedly reinvented the musical. He has received a number of awards, including a knighthood in 1992, followed by a peerage from Queen Elizabeth II for services to the arts, 6 Tonys, 3 Grammys, as well as the Grammy Legend Award, an Academy Award, a Golden Globe, a Brit Award, the 2006 Kennedy Center Honors, the 2008 Classic Brit Award for Outstanding Contribution to Music, and an Emmy Award. He is one of the 15 people to have won an Oscar, an Emmy, a Grammy, and a Tony. He has a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame, is an inductee into Songwriters Hall of Fame, and is a fellow of the British Academy of Songwriters, Composers, and Authors. His company is Really Useful. The Really Useful Group is one of the largest theatre operators in London. Producers in several parts of the UK have staged productions, including national tours of the Lloyd Webber musicals under license from the Really Useful Group. Lloyd Webber is also the president of the Arts Educational Schools, London, a performing arts school located in Chiswick, West London. He is involved in a number of charitable activities, including the Elton John AIDS Foundation, Nordhoff Robbins Prostate Cancer UK, and War Child. In 1992, he set up the Andrew Lloyd Webber Foundation, which supports the arts, culture, and heritage in the UK. Andrew Lloyd Webber's early life the early life of Andrew Lloyd Webber was born in Kensington, London, the elder son of William Lloyd Webber, who was born in 1940, died in 1982, a composer and organist, and Jean Hormone Johnstone, who was born in 1921, died in 1993. a violinist and pianist. His youngest brother, Julian Lloyd Webber, has had a career as a solo celloist. Lloyd Webber was the subject of his life. In the 1980s, Lloyd Webber was the subject of This Is Your Life in November 1980 when he was surprised by Eminem Andrews in the foyer of Themos Television's Estones Road Studios in London. He would be honored a second time by the television program in November 1994 when Michael Aspel surprised him at the West End's Adolphi Theatre. Lloyd Webber embarked on his next project without a lyricist, turning instead to the poetry of T.S. Eliot's Cats. 1981 was to become the longest-running musical in London, where it ran for 21 years before closing. On Broadway, Cats ran for 18 years, a record which would ultimately be broken by another Lloyd Webber musical, The Phantom of the Opera. Elaine Paige collaborated again with Lloyd Webber, originating the role of Grisabella in Cats, and had a top 10 UK hit with Memory. Starlight Express 1984 was a commercial hit, but received negative reviews from the critics. It enjoyed a record run in the West End, but ran less than 2 years on Broadway. The show has also seen 2 tours in the US as well as in Australia, Japan production, a 3-year UK touring production which transferred to New Zealand after 2009. Starlight Express ran for 7,409 performances in London, making it the 9th longest running West End show. The show also runs performances and runs full-time in a custom-built theater in Bochum, Germany, where it has been running since 1988. Lloyd Webber wrote a requiem mass dedicated to his father, William, who had died in 1982. It premiered at St. Thomas Church in New York on February 22nd, 1985. Church music had been a part of the composer's upbringing, and the composition was inspired by an article he had read about the plight of Cambodian orphans. Lloyd Webber had on a number of occasions written sacred music for the annual Sidemonton Festival. Lloyd Webber received a Grammy Award in 1986 for Requiem in the category of Best Classical Composition. Pai Jisoo from Requiem achieved a high placing on the UK pop charts, perhaps because of its large orchestration. Live performances of the Requiem are rare.